How's it going, everyone? Bass here. So in today's video, I want to go over 3 potential trade targets the Packers can acquire to replace Davante Adams. Now, the term replace is definitely a tall one. I mean, Davante Adams is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you just won't replace that. But as of right now, the Packers do have probably the weakest wide receiver core in the entire NFL. They could still re-sign MVS, and it seems like they want to. But even after that, they still don't have a true number 1 wide receiver. Allen Lazard is a good complementary wide receiver, probably a ceiling of a number 2. Randall Cobb is solely an aging slot wide receiver, which he's likely in his last year of his career. And Amari Rodgers only had 45 passing snaps all last year, and in comparison, Davante Adams had 618. So we really don't know what we have with Amari Rodgers just yet. Now, I do assume Green Bay will draft at least 2 wide receivers in this NFL draft. They have a lot of draft capital now, but they also have the ability to trade for one, of course. Now, the Packers likely, they usually don't trade for people, but we've seen the past 2 years the Packers do some things that they normally don't do, so I think a trade is certainly on the table here still. As I said, they have the 6th best draft capital, so they have the firepower to trade for a player. So in this video, I'm going to go over 3 potential wide receivers that the Packers could trade for. So as for my number 1, I have wide receiver Brandon Cooks from the Houston Texans, and this one intrigues me a lot. First of which, it's the Texans. They'll trade pretty much anyone at this point. Brandon Cooks was 21st in total yards last year, and that's with really no solid static quarterback all year. 1,037 yards, 6 touchdowns. He saw 130 targets, so that's clearly number 1 wide receiver target share there. He's on the last year of his contract. The Texans would actually save money trading him. He'll be turning 29 this year, so the Packers could still, trade for him and reach a 3-year extension with him. And the thing I love about Brandon Cooks the most is he has produced year in, year out, no matter the situation. Brandon Cooks has had 1,000-plus yard seasons, 6 of his 8 total seasons, 75 receptions plus in 5 of 8, and 46 total touchdowns. And I know some people will comment or they like to say, oh, well, Brandon Cooks is injury prone. And that's just not really the case. Yes, he's had some concussions in his career, but he's only played less than 14 games once in his entire career, and that was his rookie year. And Brandon Cooks has exactly what the Packers need right now without having MVS. He can take the top off of defense whilst being a number 1 wide receiver, and I really do think he would flourish in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. And that's why he's my number 1 target for sure. I think Brandon Cooks is likely to be traded. I think if anyone calls Houston and says, hey, we'd like to trade for Brandon Cooks, they will certainly throw out what they want in return. It's not going to be a hang up the phone type of situation. I do believe Brandon Cooks can be traded for, so that's why he's my number 1. That's why I think the Packers should trade for him. So for my second one, it's kind of an interesting one. Now, I haven't seen any news or rumors around him being traded, but looking at certain things, it tells me, hey, he's definitely capable of being traded, and that is Tyler Boyd out of Cincinnati. He's been falling down the depth chart the past 2 years with a draft when they've drafted T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, obviously. He saw less targets and receptions than both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins last year, yet he's paid more than both of them combined for this upcoming year. Tyler Boyd has the 5th highest cap hit on the Cincinnati Bengals, and I really just see him as the odd man out, but not because of talent, just because the Bengals obviously use Jamar Chase and T. Higgins more and seem to value them a little bit more. And even being the 3rd wide receiver last year, he finished the year with 938 yards and 6 touchdowns, which is really, really good for a 3rd wide receiver. I think he is the best 3rd wide receiver, even though he shouldn't be a 3rd wide receiver. And he's one of the most sure-handed wide receivers in the league. Only 1 drop last year. And he will be turning 28 later this year, so still young in his career. And he's just always been a favorite wide receiver of mine in this league. And I truly do think Tyler Boyd could flourish as a number 1 wide receiver somewhere, and that somewhere could surely be Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, since he would save over $7 million trading him today and nearly $9 million if they were to trade him with a post-June 1st designation. And as I said, I think Cincinnati would move Tyler Boyd given the right price after seeing what they have with Jamar Chase, after seeing what they have with T. Higgins. what they can both do. And Tyler Boyd's cap hit this year just backs my statement at a little over $10 million in cap hit, and it goes even higher next year. So that's why I do think that, like just like Brandon Cooks, if a team were to come calling to Cincinnati, there surely would be an opportunity to trade for Tyler Boyd, and I think he would be a good target for the Packers to go after. Lastly on my list, I have one that I keep seeing around all over the internet, and that is Tyler Lockett out of Seattle. Now, this one personally I see less likely, although it seems the Seahawks are in a rebuild, so really anything can happen at this point. But the reason I see it unlikely is he has 4 years left on his deal, so really the only way Tyler Lockett is traded is with a post-June 1st designation. If it's not a post-June 1st designation, the Seattle Seahawks actually lose $5 million off their salary cap and incur $15 million dead. So that for sure, I can say will not happen. But Tyler Lockett himself was 11th in the league in receiving yards with 1,175 yards and 8 touchdowns. He did see the second most targets, not the first most targets on Seattle. DK Metcalf took that, but Tyler Lockett still had over 100 targets with 103. Tyler Lockett will be turning 30 years old this year and is signed through 2025 with significant salary each year. That's why this one is also less likely for me, but surely it could still happen. Now, I can already see the comments down below. What about DK? What about DK Metcalf? Why not trade for DK Metcalf? But in a rebuild or not, I just don't see any way a team trades a 24-year-old wide receiver entering his prime still on a rookie deal. I just really don't see that at all. Now, DK is on the last year of that said deal, so probably the Seattle Seahawks and him are already talking an extension. So the only way I could see DK being traded is if he were to want to be traded. Say if Seattle and DK weren't in a good relationship about an extension and they ended up trading him. And that just hits too close to home to us Packers fans right about now. But overall, if the Packers were to go out and trade for any 3 of these wide receivers, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, or Tyler Lockett, honestly, I'd be happy with all 3 of these if they traded for any of these guys. I like these 3 wide receivers. Tyler Boyd being the youngest, but I think Brandon Cooks is just so consistent, and I would love to see him in Green Bay. There's been rumors of Brandon Cooks coming to Green Bay for years now. There's always that trade rumor every year, just like the Odell Beckham one, where it's like, oh, are the Packers going to be trading for Brandon Cooks? That happens too often, so I kind of actually want to see it follow through now that the Packers don't have a number 1 wide receiver and really don't have top receivers in the receiver room right now at all. So I think something is going to happen, whether that be them signing a free agent or trading for one. Surely they're going to draft people, as I said earlier, but obviously the Packers aren't going to go into 2022 with their current wide receiver core. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of these 3 wide receivers? Would you be happy with any of these guys? Which one do you like the most? And then also, if there's someone I did not mention, leave them down in the comments below so we can have a conversation about that as well. But that about does it for this video. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.